So thank you for tuning in to the Noob DM channel, YouTube channel. Here we are back again. This is podcast, another podcast about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm joined here today by our colleagues, friends, Chuck Rios from Southern California, and Michelle Cram, fellow DM, DMer, theater enthusiast, and gamer. So thank you guys for joining me. And today, what I thought we'd be kind of loosey. What's that? Loose, no structure. I didn't really have a topic in mind. I did post a couple of videos earlier this week, only because I was blown away to find out that I had been making these videos for over a year now. And time just flies. So it's been a year on the channel, and it's really interesting because what I found out. The takeaway from me from creating gaming videos specifically about RPGs or about role-playing game and D&D specifically, the couple of takeaways that I have is, in case anybody's curious, is old school gaming is very popular. Everybody's doing 5th edition stuff. Everybody's talking about the new books and Wizards of the Coast. But I think there's still a big market about with people with what they call the OSR movement, which stands for old school resources, or I think that's what it stands, old school resources. So it's basically the old timers like myself who started playing with like basic and then first and then every edition or iteration of the game. And I found that I posted a video for second edition specifically, and that kind of blew up. So everybody likes second edition. It's my favorite version, to be quite honest. Second edition is very good because it has, at least personally for me, it has that old school kind of Game of Thrones kind of like intrigue and chivalry and Knights of the Round Table type of thing that you don't really find in in like right now. It's more of a trope where people are more into like magic stuff. In fact, the latest book that they put out that Wizards of the Coast put out for D&D adventure-wise, it's called Strixhaven, I think. It's basically the way I see it, it's basically for the Magic the Gathering / Harry Potter crowd, because it's all about how people can go into a magic college, and then you choose your classes. And I don't know what you do, I haven't played it, but you basically choose a class, and then you're training as a mage or whatever. But to me, that's not really my cup of tea, but I know that a lot of people enjoy that type of gaming. What about you, Chuck? What comes to your mind when you think of, is it old school gaming, or is it a specific theme or subject or setting?
Well, I'm always for old school games. I love them.
Yeah.
And they never get old because
Right.
you can always do things. They're classic for a reason, right?
Right.
So in every kind of different like genre of something, you always have things that are classics, like say Magic the Gathering, for instance. You always have a thing that works.
Yeah.
And they just paint over it, right? And they haven't really done that with D&D yet. Thankfully, they've done it a little bit, but luckily Wizards of the Coast have done a good job so far and not watered it down.
Yeah.
Because games can get watered down. If you remember, like biotech games like that, where they get run to death. Even Cyberpunk, if you remember that, like it just gets done to death. But D&D's always been a classic because you can do anything and be anything. It's a lot simpler because you're not really tied to technology.
Yeah, true. Especially on the tabletop part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vampire the Masquerade is one I want to get to eventually. And I played a lot of that, and that's one of my all-time favorite games. But they have a good structure. White Wolf, any White Wolf game has a good structure like that, where they're classics, right?
Right.
But don't get me started about Magic the Gathering, because I'm mad at them.
So Magic the Gathering, I don't know, maybe you would enjoy some of the crossover that's happening now, because I thought I wasn't familiar with the Ravnica setting, and because Hasbro owns D&D, all those game companies, all those properties, so they mixed the last two. They did 2 Magic the Gathering crossovers, and one was the Guild Masters, where you pick a guild and you're running around the world of Ravnica, which I understand is the same environment for Magic the Gathering.
Well, it took how many years? It took like 20 years for them to even come up with a cohesive thing. It wasn't until about 10 years ago, or Mark Rosewater, even more. So about 15 years ago, he started making things, all the sets, worlds, right? They didn't even have an idea about that. Right. I'm still of the old school mind, the Richard Garfield, the way I miss Magic the way it used to be, where you just put a big old spider and you hit an elf, and that's why I like Dungeons and Dragons so much, because it has that simplicity, and it's not some goblin from a different plane, and I'm not a wizard. Like, I don't know. I guess the height for, if we're going to talk about Magic the Gathering, the height of them, was probably about more than 10 years ago is when they hit the peak. And they should have stopped, because they were releasing 2 or 3 sets a year, and it was becoming more of a cash grab. You couldn't even buy cards, and it was unsustainable. I guess what I'm saying is that's what I hope. My fear is that's not gonna happen with D&D, but I think D&D is too big.
Yeah. What about you, Michelle? What are your thoughts on, I don't know if you played Magic or any other, you were talking about, we were off camera, we were talking about the Munchkin game, which I have played and enjoyed, and I know they have different types of flavors and skins of Munchkin. So are there any other, are there any settings or adventure settings or environments or systems that you enjoy or that you gravitate to more than others?
Gaming for me is more like arcade type gaming, where you just see how far you can get in this one game, just leveling up. Sonic, I started with Sega Genesis, so that was that's my gaming, nothing too complex. And then board games was more of you got a bunch of different type of people, and they do not play the same games, so let's just play a board game. Everybody knows that. So it's then we started playing when I got older, and I met people in high school that played D&D. 3.5 is what we've played, so that's just how I've learned. But when you said about the second edition, I think that would be so much more fun to play now that you know the 3.5, 4, and 5, and those kind of aspects of DMing for those games, I feel are different from DMing from the second edition.
Yeah, and
so now that you can retrospectively go back to the second edition with the knowledge of DMing for those types of games, I think that makes it really fun.
Yeah, and I'm not down on other systems. I mean, I'll be down to whatever people want to play. I played 3.5 and I like it. The only thing I didn't really like too much about 3.5 is the skill system. I know you talked about how you like the skills, and to me it was too many. It was you get a list of your character sheet of 20 or 30 skills to pick, and then in the new version 5e, it's they almost went the opposite, where you pick a race, let's say you're a goblin or whatever, a playable race, a dwarf, and then depending on what you pick, then you'll have a skill. You're good with the crossbows, or you're good with 2. You get there's a short list 4 or 5, and you pick. But if you want to pick more, you can, but you're not going to be proficient, so you have to spend some you got to do some training. In 3.5, it was you pick, there's all these skills, and you can put in as many points as it's a point-based system, so you can buy X number of points on diplomacy or X number of points of buff. I like that, but they did away with that, and now it's sort of just you still have the skills, but it depends on your class, and it depends on if you want to get really good at it, you can train. And I see why they do that, because they want to streamline some things of some portions of it, but it really depends on your preference, what type of player you are. If you like skills, if you want more variety, then you have a long list. If you want just to be specialized, then you probably like the other way better.
Didn't we talk about that last time? We were talking about that, the simplification of D&D.
Well, a little bit.
Is it good or bad for?
Yes, we touched upon it a little bit, because we were telling people how to create the characters. Remember, we did that whole character creation thing for 3.5, and the 5th edition is a lot more streamlined. It's easier to do the character creation, because you just sometimes you even get a pre-gen. If you're lazy and you don't want to go through it. See, for me, it's fun to roll for your stats. Some people don't like rolling for stats. They're okay, just give me a build, and they want to play like a paladin or something, and there's all this pre-made paladin, and you just pick the. It's almost like the video game, the online version, where you can just click a button and just say, okay, this is my build, and then I can.
They want pre-rolls, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, good. That's a good introduction. Now I wanted to talk about the news because I did put out a video on the news, and one of the things that we did talk a little bit about it last time, but we didn't get into too much. I remember I asked you guys what you thought, because we were talking about the future of gaming, the future of D&D, the future of the systems, and when it comes to the future. Over the summer, I think you remember, Chuck, we were looking at this video, at the what they put out during they have this annual show, basically kind of like Comic-Con for gaming, and at Wizards of the Coast had their own producers, and they were talking about what they were coming up with for the future of the game. And I asked you what you wanted to see, and you said something like, "Oh, they should bring back like the spacefaring one, like go out into space, expand the universe where it's not just you're on Earth or you're in the material plane, but you're other planes of existence and spacefaring adventures." And it's like you were reading their mind, because the big news this week was that it was an April Fool's joke, like April 1st. Just the other day, they talked about how they had confirmed the Spelljammer system, which is basically D&D in space, which we had in second edition, So they were like, it's a joke, it may not happen, but I think that there's a little bit of truth to that because of some evidence that you can follow in that. So it's like, if they do go ahead and confirm it officially, Chuck, you were kind of like a sage. You were like,
all my dreams are always
into
jokes.
The future. Guessing the future. Do you have a crystal ball? I know you're a wizard, but do you have a crystal ball? Is that how you pulled that off?
I got balls somewhere. I think remember the Fushigi balls?
Yeah. Magic 8-ball.
Magic 8-ball, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
with the bell or without?
Yeah. I think with is more fun.
With.
Yeah. No, but I thought it was I thought it was really interesting, because like we were talking about that, and lo and behold, they're like, oh, because I know that
Space Jammer stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but the reason why I think that it's
they should just bring it. They should just let it happen.
Yeah, they should. Yeah.
But then maybe I'm sorry, maybe their fear is it'll turn into like a cyberpunk.
Yeah.
That's the natural because that's what it is, right? I mean, cyberpunk is where you get all the implants and eventually you connect to magical things.
Well, cyberpunk is
cybermancers and all that can do that, right?
Yeah. Well, they do have some cyberpunk adventures for 3.5. I think like Eberron was mostly Eberron came out like in third edition, which was around 20 years ago. It's been like 20 years, but
oh yeah.
It had a steampunk motif or a steampunk, you could play
all the punks.
What?
I said all the punks.
Yeah, you could play.
All
you could
punks.
be yeah. You're thinking even way back when they had the cyberpunk stuff for like
well, because
RPGs.
If they let D&D expand into space like I was hoping it would, on hindsight, it would just turn into a futuristic cyberpunk world. Like it would just, we right now in our reality, we would be like right in the middle of that transition.
Oh yeah, I see
because we've already went through the dark ages, right, and the medieval ages, and now we're here, and it would just, in the game context, it would just turn into that where you have a wizard and he's teleporting because there's no cars, right, or something, and then that's how everyone gets around, just like World of Warcraft. Remember how everyone used to have to use the mage to travel?
Yeah.
Around. It would be kind of like a mixture of that, and it wouldn't be exactly the same because I guess cyberpunk is more dystopian, right? So
like Firefly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I don't know. I'd want to see it though. I'm sad it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be official or not. It was an April Fool's joke, but it brings the point of, I was thinking they didn't really give a lot of hints. Because the thing is, they want to expand, right? Because the whole thing is the game companies have to make money and you have a constant turnover. So if you look at the stuff that they put out recently, for example, it's two expansions or two adventure settings of Magic the Gathering. So they've already done that. They started with the Forgotten Realms, which is traditional Magic, Sword Coast and all that, which has been around forever. And they can't do Dragonlance. I thought they were going to do Dragonlance as a setting, but the reason they couldn't do Dragonlance was because they were getting sued. They were in the middle of a copyright lawsuit, with the authors and stuff. So I think that has all been settled already. So maybe Dragonlance will be coming in 2024 or 2025, the next couple of years.
Are they still writing Dragonlance books?
Yeah, but I don't know if they're doing it under the banner of Wizards of the Coast anymore. I don't know if they're being independent.
Well, that's who was publishing them, though, right?
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast was publishing, but then there was a lawsuit, and they settled the lawsuit. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if moving forward it's going to have the Wizards of the Coast banner, or it's going to be an independent print run from the Hicks. Hicks. I think it was Hicks, right? Hicks, the authors. Yeah. What do you think, Michelle? Do you have a preference in terms of like what type of setting or universes? Because the Spelljammer I was talking about was space adventures type of thing. And like I said, they've had Magic, they've had the Sword Coast, and they've had what else? Oh, they've had the horror Gothic. I don't have the Ravenloft books because they're so specialized. But I know Ravenloft's still pretty popular. Curse of Strahd is Curse of Strahd is actually still the most popular adventure Gothic horror genre. You were talking about the White Wolf themes. Yeah.
I really enjoy actually the Western themes, Butter Blusters and like all that, ridiculous cowboys.
Yeah,
Space Cowboys.
Outlaw.
I'm always trying to
outlaw, almost like Vash the Stampede.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That. Firefly was like Space Cowboys, wasn't it? If I remember.
It was exactly. It was pretty much Space Cowboys.
Yeah.
Bleach or no, Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop was definitely. I'm so sad they didn't go through with the second season. What's wrong with them?
I don't know. That seems
too real for them. Yeah. It was too real for them. It was too good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That's a good suggestion. The Western type, because there's definitely a market for that. I can't think off the top of my head any game system. There's no game system that has a system that I know of that has a monopoly on that setting. So I don't see why it would be untapped. The older
Bounty Hunters.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a game called Shadow of Brimstone. And I think I still have that game.
Is it an RPG?
But yeah, so Shadow of Brimstone was released by this company called Flying Frog Productions, and in the game, it takes place in the Wild West, and you play a cowboy or a cowgirl or whoever you want to play in there, and you have to go into this. They discover a mine, and the mine basically has eldritch horror in it.
Okay.
So it was like H.P. Lovecraft. It can also have scientific stuff. It can have anything.
Sci-fi.
So, yeah, it can have horror, sci-fi, anything coming out of this cave. And so
that's cool.
The game is you have to go in there and try to get the resource that's causing all this to bring it back out, and a lot of different stuff happen. Yeah.
Was it a tabletop, or is it is it a tabletop?
It was a tabletop game. So I don't know if I can I'll share my screen real quick. I'll show you.
Yeah. Please do. I've never even heard of that.
Oh, here's the Kickstarter. Let me get it ready for you.
Oh, it's a Kickstarter, so they're trying to bring
it was a Kickstarter. Oh no, this game's expensive now.
Okay.
But if I still have it, we should all play it.
Yeah.
A game setting I haven't really played would be like Gladiators.
Oh, right. That's
a good one too.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So is this it? No, this is Beth Gaming. This is not the right one. There you go. So Shadow Brimstone. It's called Shadow Brimstone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you look at my search parameters, I said Lovecraft.
Yeah, Lovecraft.
Game Frog, because that's all I can remember. such a librarian.
You found it though.
That's right.
I've heard of Game Frog. Now that you think about it, they're not the same. They're not the same company that produces like Shadows over Camelot. The artwork looks pretty similar.
Is it? They probably are. They probably are. All I know is this game was pretty cool. I mean, I went through it on videos and stuff, and
yeah,
and the more you delve into it, the more you delve into madness. You know, like just like the Lovecraft RPGs or the tabletop games.
Yeah.
So if you play the Lovecraft tabletop games, which are basically, I like these kind of games because they're a mixture of miniatures and a mixture of RPG, like Dungeons and Dragons. You know, you got
like
systems.
Yeah.
You got role systems, and D&D's got a bunch of these.
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, they were very. The D&D was trying to push the board games more like for 4th edition because 4th edition was more tactical, where you needed the battle grid to go through a lot of the maps and the adventures. Whereas 5th edition, they still have. You can still use a battle grid, but it's more like theater of the mind type of thing, going back to like older type, where you don't necessarily need minis as much, although you can certainly use them if you want to.
Huh.
I'm curious, can you kind of bring up Shadows over Camelot? Now I'm curious to see if it's the same company because the artwork looks pretty similar.
The Shadows over Camelot?
Yeah, that's the name of, that's a great game. Well, I like the medieval stuff, so it's kind of like a good.
Yeah, it's Board Game Geek. They sell it there too, so let's see.
It's got a 7.1 rating. 2005. Wow, it's been out for a while.
Publisher is Days of Wonder.
Okay, different. Okay, but the artwork is similar.
They look similar.
Yeah, that's a great game. You know, more.
See, now we're getting into a totally different like world.
No, that's fine though, because I was asking you guys about the different genres, you know, and the different where they can take it, because the D&D festival, Summerfest or whatever, it's coming into summer, it's coming up again, and they're gonna talk about. I think that's why we were seeing all the surveys, Chuck, because they're trying to ask this is a good time to bring that up. They're trying to gauge. They did this when 2nd edition came out in the late 80s. The internet wasn't popular back then, so they published Dungeon magazine and they published like Dragonman this actual print game magazines, and they asked people what they wanted to see, and they wrote into the editors letters to the editors, or they wrote columns. Well, I guess they're doing the same thing now, but they're doing it online to find out what people want to see in the next coming years, you know, in terms of campaign settings, in terms of, product lines.
That makes sense. That's why you're seeing all the,
That's why you're seeing all the, I surmise, or I suspect that's why you're seeing all the surveys. They want to ask the customers, you know, because that's how their bread and butter. Okay, let me try to bring back and think back of what was. There's no agenda or structure, like I said, but I did. The news was the game systems that they wanted, and you know that the Spelljammer was a big deal, and I forget what the other big part of what the huge news that the other huge news was they were the Pathfinder, right? Did you guys, any of you guys ever play Pathfinder?
I played a little bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, so Pathfinder is people that may not know, if you watch the people that are watching this, almost everybody knows that is a game published by Paizo Industries. And what happened, the way I understand the history was like when TSR back in the old days was going broke, you know, because the company was mismanaged before Wizards of the Coast came in. They sold a lot of their assets, kind of like what Marvel did. Remember when Marvel almost went broke in the middle of the 90s, and they sold off a lot of their property, so they got rid of Spider-Man and X-Men and a bunch of the big titles. That's why Spider-Man was never in any of those Marvel movies until recently, because Sony owns the IP. Sony owns the license. So anyway, the same thing happened with TSR. They sold off a bunch of their lines, their products, and they started, other people took advantage of it, and this they got rid of their magazines basically, because like magazines weren't selling and stuff. So Dragon magazine, Dungeon magazine, those type of things weren't selling that well. So they sold it to a company named Paizo, and Paizo was printing for a while. And then when 3.5 hit around the year 2000-ish, they came up with this open gaming license, and we talked about this a little bit too, about like the rights to actually produce your own games and stuff like that. Well, they had this thing called the open gaming license, and the idea was, well, we're going to license the D20 system to a bunch of companies, and then we get a cut of each product that comes out, and that way we don't have to do all the work, right? People will do all the independent game publishing companies will do so. We'll use the license and we'll create some adventures, and then we can get, money from that. And then that our staff is not overtaxed with doing all the creation. Well, it sort of backfired a little bit because Paizo was like, okay, we'll take in the open game license, but we're gonna create our own game. And the game they created was Pathfinder, which they took the 3.5 rule set and they just expanded. Like everything that people didn't like about 3.5, like for example, I was talking about the skill system is not my favorite. As an example, they'll be like, oh, well, we create our own skill system and maybe you like this better. And they did surveys like they're doing now, and they play tested it, and it was a huge hit, so much that TSR was losing money. I remember about this must have been like 10 years ago when I was still going to gaming stores, like in Pasadena has a gaming store, and I would go there to play on weekends. You would always see the D&D tables, you would see the board game tables, and there was Pathfinder, and I had never heard of Pathfinder. I was like, what the hell is Pathfinder? But it's basically D&D is just 3.75, like an extension. So
it's like the same stuff, different names.
Yeah,
I think they even have a beholder, don't they?
Yeah,
I think they do, but they can't legally call it a beholder. It's just called
the big eyeball,
eye tyrant, or whatever the hell it's called. And they have like a dragon. Basically, they put out a big player's handbook. And one thing that they did that was smart was this was around the time that 4th edition started. The Wizards of the Coast took over, but they always did like the different books. So they had the player's handbook, and then the DM's guide, and then the monster manual, and all the other books. Well, Paizo said, well, we're just going to combine the player's handbook and the DM's guide into one big volume, because that way people will just have to buy one book instead of spending $100. They can spend $40 and buy one book, and they'll get all the rules there. And that helped penetrate into the market, which was a good business marketing, because very few people were buying the 4th edition books at the time, because a lot of people didn't like 4th edition, so Paizo kind of took over. So the big news this week, why I bring this all up, is because Paizo recently came out with Pathfinder 2.0. So that's pretty popular. Basically, they revamped a lot of their systems, and they have.
I gotta look at that.
Yeah. Can you bring it up a little bit, Chuck, and we'll take a look at that. But also what they're doing is they're recently converted to, they started in a 3.5 setting, but nobody's playing 3.5 anymore, or 4th edition. Well, we are, but niche groups are, but the majority of the public is playing 5e. So Paizo said, we're losing money. How can we make more money? And they are taking Pathfinder and updating it for 5th edition rule set is what they're doing now.
Wow, 640-page guide for $60. That's totally worth it.
Well, that's second edition, second volume, right? Second edition.
Second edition, regular Pathfinder. But they said the 2.0, right? It's going to come out.
I think it's already out, actually.
So why wouldn't this be the 2.0? Is this the 2.0?
That is the 2.0. That is the 2.0. Yeah, they came out with the first one came out about 10, 12, 15, almost 15 years. When was 3.5 out? Like 2010, some 2000, early 2000s. So. Well, almost 20 years. Almost, so 15, 20 years, something like that. And Pathfinder 2, I think, came out last year or the year before, sometime during COVID times.
Really, I thought Pathfinder was a lot older.
No, it started around 2000-ish, 2001, something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but it was around.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because 3.5 came out first, and like I said, they sort of took off after 3.5.
So barbarian, alchemist, bard, champion, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, rogue, ranger, sorcerer, and wizard with an exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of spells, class, and see that right there. Their marketing just makes it look. It has a lot of guerrilla marketing aspects. You could tell it's a small group of people doing it. as
Actually,
opposed to a big corporation. It looks like.
well, actually, Python started off small, but I think they're expanding and they're big. They're pretty big now. I mean, they're not as big as Wizards of the Coast, obviously. I mean, they got a giant.
It looks like they're still attached to people, because the problem with Wizards of the Coast is they have to be a blanket, right? They got to be a blanket to everyone. And the Paizo right here, if you just look at the writing, from a writer's perspective, it's made to catch you. Like, this comprehensive 60-page guide to the Pathfinder role-playing game provides everything you need to set out in the world of limitless fantasy adventure. So but back in with Gary Gygax, that was like the whole premise, right? When they were marketing it, when they first started marketing it on their own before TSR, right?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the marketing part of it. Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. I mean,
it makes me want to play it more.
Yeah. Well, they this is like their announcement, or they're telling. I mean, $60 for a hardcover that's 600 pages. I mean, if you buy a D&D 5e book, it'll cost you $50, and it'll be like 200 pages. So you got like and most of the time they don't even have an adventure attached to them. It's like I think they're kind of getting smarter now, and they're attaching adventures within the core books, because they realize that they can't sell 20 books and expect everybody to buy 20 books when they could condense the information. It's more of a bang for you.
Right, I won't buy them. The only thing I buy are supplements if I'm really into it. And I have to be playing for, if I was playing a wizard, which I've done before. If I played a wizard for like 3 months and I've been playing like 3 or 4 campaigns during those 3 months, I'm like, I better really get into this.
Can you? Yeah, I hear you. I'm the same way. And can you bring up, Chuck, real quick, the Pathfinder 5e, because that's the newest. For people that might be watching this and don't know that's what's happening now. That just dropped last week, that Paizo was doing Pathfinder 5e. If you can find text now.
Here's a bunch of YouTube videos I want to watch later.
Yeah.
Paizo is making a D&D 5e content.
Right. Well, can you find just the text and see what? This one's good. Yeah, because this was 4 days ago. Yeah.
This one right here, right? From Comic Book.
Yeah.
Ooh, Comic Book. Yeah, we ripped for them.
Yeah, I think this is the same one I was looking at last time. So basically, this article talks about how it gives you the history that I just talked about to you guys about how they came up with the open gaming license. But the really interesting thing about it is that they're going to take the Abomination Vault, which is like their latest adventure setting, and they're going to take it, which is a part of the 2E system, and they're going to make it convert it into 5th edition rule set, which some people are, they're saying, oh, well, Pathfinder sold out, right? It's like, those are the alternative. It's not commercial. People, when you try to make money, you're always a sellout, right? And so like, they're no longer independent and they're selling out, and then the president, the game designer said, because that's another thing they were saying is, they're in trouble. They're not making any money. That's why they're converting to the new system. And then this guy, the game designer, the president, said, no, we're doing just fine. In fact, we have a lot of plans for 2nd edition, and we're just trying to open up the market, the industry. What did he say? It's doing great. We're excited to put out more material. We have a lot in store. So it was kind of cryptic. He didn't really go into it too much. So
it's kind of like what they were trying to do when they first started, right? They were trying to make Dungeons and Dragons better.
Yeah. And
now they're just trying to show people that there's more than Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
But in a legal way, which is good.
Yeah, I don't know what the end goal is. I don't really know. I don't know in depth where like what their financials. I haven't looked at company reports or anything, so I don't know if what this guy's saying is true, that they're doing well financially and they just want to open up the market. It could be that they were losing money because I don't know if you guys know, but Dungeons and Dragons has hit hard the last couple of years. It's like the most popular RPG. Again, for a long time it was not popular, but now it's like coming back because there's a lot of more streaming and people can actually watch, stuff on YouTube, and the internet has been a boom. The streaming services have been a boom, and so they're selling more product than ever before on the new edition than they did in previews. And then they still have a whole catalog of the old editions to work with that they can tap into.
So they're selling humble bundles. They're selling bundles. They're trying. I think they took a hit But it's also, I think it's very smart of them because they're like, hey, we're still a contender in this industry,
right?
And we're not going to get swallowed up by D&D again,
right?
So I think this is good that they're in with D&D and they have a contract obviously with them.
Yeah, they do. Well, no, they don't have a contract with D&D. They just use the open. They just use the open license, the gaming license, so that they.
So they're gonna do. Oh, I thought they had something. I thought they sat down with them or something.
No. What they did
is that's what happened originally. Yeah, right. Originally, they sold a bunch of their licensing, and then Pathfinder took it. I take it back. I understand Pathfinder is like just D&D with different names, but I think it helped a lot of people who did homebrews.
Yes,
I think it was way more lenient on what you could and couldn't do, and there wasn't too much boggling you down during the game, as like, and each turn you have to say like, I drank 50% of my water skin. I'm feeding my horse so it doesn't die next week. Like
that's right.
Yeah, they get heated. People get heated, right?
Yeah, I can't stand that.
You didn't feed Strawberry last week.
You said you had one ration left. Okay, if it was like that, then yeah. But if it was like, I'm going to eat one out of my 267 rations and just mark that off.
Just eat.
Like day 15, let's like go through inventory, everyone. It's like, no.
Yeah, Michelle's going through the DM perspective. She's telling us the way it was, because that's the thing with us. When people that like us, like me, I was mostly primarily a player. I didn't worry about like keeping track, but the DM has to keep track of all that stuff. But I think you're right. I think that Chuck, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of like they want to say, well, we're still relevant, and that's why 5E is the flavor of the month. Like, well, more than that, it's been around for several years now. Everybody's doing that, so we want a share of that pie, but we're not selling out, So we're trying to it's like a fine line, because they want to reassure the fans that they're going to make product, but they don't want to say we're selling out by going into the new system and taking advantage of the popularity of the new system, because they don't want, because they also don't want to alienate the OSR crowd, which is still very much interested in 3.5, very much interested in like second edition and all those other systems that came before. And that's the thing. That's why I think D&D is always going to be the top, because they have so much inventory to go back from. It's like if you just look at 40 years worth of product, 40 years worth of game lines, how can you compete if your system's only 10 years old, right? You're not gonna do well.
The competition's healthy though.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was the take I made in my last in my analysis of it, was that it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, the fans just get more to choose from, let the companies fight it out, but the fans will ultimately decide. And the more you give us, the more variety that we have to choose from. Like Michelle was saying, you have a system like Pathfinder where it's not structured, and you don't have to necessarily follow, because some people don't follow every single rule. If you give players the agency, I guess that's the term that they use. If you give people more playing agency, then it's a win for everyone. So that's the news for this week. I don't know what's going to come up in the next couple of weeks, but I'll definitely keep an eye on it. I think we should probably wrap up soon, because don't want this to go way too long. And,
updated twice a year.
What's that? Oh, the podcast? No, well, I was talking about this individual.
We keep you in the news twice a year.
No, I'll do more of that on the blog and
we're transitioning back into society.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We transition. Don't
put any more pressure on us than there is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, look at you're all topsy-turvy. Your bed's all weird.
Oh, it always looks like that.
Oh, not your room. I was talking about her. She got her mattress.
Oh yeah.
Changing beds or something.
So
I'm in the middle of moving rooms. Well, I just finished, so I'm just using this one for now.
Good.
Just for Zooms. For a Zoom.
Nice. Hey, the light is good. If you have good light, that's more than half the battle right there. So
I want to get janitor's closet with a bunch of chemicals.
Yeah,
Just
that's
be
right.
behind it with a mop.
Yeah, like a dingy hotel. Like remember my light not good. All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Thank you you guys for joining me. And next time, I think I'll take a look again and see what those were the two big news items now, the PISO and the setting. I know that the summer's coming up, so with the spring they roll into the show, and they're going to be making announcements about what's going to be happening in the show this summer. So that'll be interesting because we'll already announced new books and new settings and new products and projects. So we'll keep an eye on that, and then we'll talk. Maybe we'll do like White Wolf next time and talk about the vampires.
How to get a live gaming session going.
Yeah, and that too. So we'll definitely do that.
Yeah. I have so many ideas coming to mind recently, and I thought, oh, that would be a cool game. That'd be a cool game.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I got a few of my own. So just drop me a line, and then we can try to coordinate a good time for it.
I'll bring the fushigi balls.
Yes.
with bells, please.
Yes, with bells, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this time together, and we'll be back discussing some more gaming news and some more tabletop and RPG news.
That's our sign now.
Yeah, and I have an outro now. My outro is "May the rolls be with you." What do you think?
May the what?
May the rolls be with you.
The rolls? Oh,
yeah,
the rolls.
Mr. Carmona, yeah. I'm the legality department from Disney LLC. I'd like to talk to you, please, about.
Well, go ahead. I mean, you can't take any more. It's like, what are you gonna
take from me, Disney?
I was thinking cinnamon rolls. I don't know. It's the munchies.
May the rolls be with you. Yeah, keep it up. Remember what are we gonna do?
Remember like Rocky 5 where the guy where they're fighting in the street, and then the lawyer is like, "Oh, I'm gonna sue you if you touch me." And then Rocky knocks him out. He's like, "Go ahead. What can you take from me?" It's like
his turtles.
That's Rocky 5.
That was right. Yeah. All right, guys.
I'll
see you later. I gotta make dinner.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.